What's going on, guys? Mark here, the world's strongest man, and I'll be playing Ronnie Ferris in the movie The Weight. Go to WeFunder.com/The Weight Film LLC. That way you not only can support the movie, but you can get a return off of your investment. The Weight is going to change the way weightlifting is viewed forever. It looked ugly, but the first time that I ever had a snatch training session, I snatched 125. I squatted 1,000 pounds. I deadlifted 900 pounds. I bench pressed 585.
All raw.
Snatched all raw. I didn't use no equipment. I snatched 400 pounds. I clean and jerked 500 pounds. And I won the world's strongest man after 7 months of training against the best guys on the planet. I wasn't an accident. I wasn't just a strong guy. When I went to junior high and machines would go up to like 315 or 325, I could lift the whole stack. So I went to the high school and lifted. That's when I knew that I was different. I thought I was just strong.
So what happened after that? Like how? What was
I bench pressed 300 the first day that I in the 7th grade. Went and got my brother. My brother's record was 565, and he came in there and watched me break his squat record.
No.
And he was like, "Damn."
All right, Mark. So, I know you know this now that I've looked up to you for a long, long time. Being an American, being an incredibly well-rounded strength athlete, that's something that attracts me a lot. Is somebody who can just use their athleticism to get into these sports and find a way to do the best they can. Specifically about Olympic weightlifting, because I want to touch on all three strength sports that you've partaken in at the highest level. Specifically Olympic weightlifting, what is it about Olympic weightlifting that you loved?
The challenge. The challenge of lifting and the conquering your own fear. That's the thing about weightlifting that sets the good from the great, is the ability to block out fear, challenging the bar. And in my life, not just lifting, I am the worst loser. And personal loss is worse than competitive loss, but it is personal when you get to your records. Any weightlifter that's ever amounted to anything, when you get to the 100% and you have to do more than 100%, that's when the challenge starts.
Right.
That's when the personal loss starts, and you miss about 20 times. And then you scream, you fuss, you cuss. And then you finally do it. It's a feeling that drugs won't give you. It's a feeling that your family can't give you. It's personal achievement. And that was the thing that I loved the most, is conquering the fear so I could feel that success.
There's something that I noticed when I'm lifting, and it is very palpable, especially in Olympic weightlifting, but it seems like the world melts away, and it's literally the room, the competition hall is incredibly quiet, and it's just you and the bar. And that thing, it's very weird. It's almost like a psychedelic experience, you know, like you really have no choice. You know, you can't think about anything else because this thing could kill you, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that being able to call upon that is like so valuable to me. It's something that I will never sacrifice, you know?
You get that silence, and there's always that one asshole that's in the back. You got this.
Right.
Like, shut up. Like, but I remember in 92, I went 6 for 6 at the Olympics and placed 10th. I don't remember no lifts. That was the most focused I'd ever been in my life to that point. I don't remember my parents being there. I don't remember family or friends cheering for me. I don't remember what my coaches said to me. I had achieved the 100% level of focus. And it's sad that I don't remember my Olympic experience. But the end result was a 10th place finish, to be 10th in the world.
Right.
At something. And I had no fear. I felt all accomplishment. And it was what every athlete lives for, that one moment of 100% focus with no fear, and you go in and you do your job. And I was able to do that. And that, I hope that that feeling could be described in this film.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Adam and myself, we understand that. Like 100%. This isn't just a good script. This isn't just a good theme, but the entire thing is what we're trying to accomplish. So like the aesthetic of the sport, the sounds, the sights, exactly what you just described, and then put on the emotional development of characters. This movie has the power to do all of that in ways that haven't been shown before. They've been done before, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you can draw to a lot of different movies that this will be like. But the visuals from this, the sounds, like I said, and the way this will be shot, you know, this is going to be something very, very special.
Yeah, man, like reading it, it reads like Rocky 1. You every time you see Rocky train, every time you see Rocky interact with everybody around him because of the sacrifice that I made in lifting. I never went on spring break. I never went to a lot of the cool stuff that kids get to go to. I was a 20-year-old virgin. My whole life was about lifting and about sports. And people don't understand that, like what sacrifices lifters make. Before 92 and before 96, I took a year of celibacy. Like I went and lived on an island with only 3 people on the island to train.
Wow.
If you cannot focus, you cannot lift.
So this is something that I'm actually incredibly interested in. I just recently made a video on this very idea. It's only sacrifice to people who don't want it and don't want to do it. It's like, look, I'm never going to take away from those things that you did sacrifice. But for you, maybe it just seemed like this is the only way.
That was the only way.
So in that sense, it was almost like a stress reliever. Like it was like, I don't have to worry about anything else. I can just worry about the thing that I love and the thing that I want to do.
No pressure.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing.
My buddies, you know, I still had access to a phone on the island.
Right.
And they were like, man, we're going down to 6th Street and we're going to do this. And so-and-so is playing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, like y'all have a ball. Yeah. Tell me about it. And that was how I was living vicariously through my people that was outside of the island. But that was only for entertainment purposes. I didn't long for it. I didn't want to go out or nothing like that. Man, I was going to bed at 8:30 at night, waking up at 6 in the morning and training, walking out into the ocean. The water was like 50 degrees, like after my training. Like it was therapeutic. You know, I wrote more. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. Mm-hmm. I wrote more in that time than the rest of my career combined.
Imagine your outlet instead of going down to 6th Street being writing.
Right.
Yeah. Like that's my hobby or that's my escape from God. Training is really, really hard. And it's not a bad hobby to have.
No, it's not. It's not. And in the lifting, I felt the feeling of accomplishment is worth it.
Of course.
I've had the bar fall on top of my head, hit my shoulder, pin me to the ground. You start snatching 400 pounds, which very few Americans have ever done.
Exactly. That's a
Like,
big number.
It's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
So I took a lot of pride. I wanted to be the best American lifter ever, and I'm going to be in that conversation every time.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there was other people that made that sacrifice, and I want the history of the lifters that came before me to be told as well.
Of course.
You know, that's something that Ronnie will impart. Is you're not the first one. You're not the first one to ever grab a bar. You're not the first one to ever miss. You're not the first one to ever set a record. There will be no records if there wasn't other people before you. Honor those people.
So I didn't really understand this full idea of sacrifice until I started weightlifting, which was late. So I played sports my whole life. Then I graduated college, and I was like, there's no outlet for sports for me anymore. But I still I still feel like I have something left to give.
Yeah.
I got into CrossFit. CrossFit turned into weightlifting. And when I started to say, oh my God, my total can keep going up and up and up, I didn't take a sip of alcohol for like 4 straight months or something. Didn't even plan on it. Didn't say, hey, I'm going to stop drinking. I just figured it's like, well, I got to train on Saturday. So I can't go out Friday. And what, am I going to go out Saturday after training my ass off? Or am I going to go out Saturday night after training my ass off on Saturday and then to have my one day off Sunday feel miserable? No way. For me, it was just a total natural thing. Like I can tell you right now, if I had said, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to party, I probably would have gone and done it. It was just a natural thing for me. So the gift that weightlifting gave me was the truth. It gave me the true idea of sacrifice, where other sports I could kind of turn a blind eye to it. I could play with going out a little bit because it wasn't so noticeable how it would affect my performance. And to talk about the respecting the people of the past, it's very weird, but in those moments in time where it was just me and my training, I felt a spiritual connection to the greats of the past. And I had YouTube as well. So I had, the Iron Mind videos. I had videos of yourself. I had videos of a lot of people that were just playing in my mind or playing in front of me while I ate my lunch in between training sessions. I felt this like they're my ancestors or something. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what I had Mario Martinez.
Oh, yes. Mario Martinez. Mario, rest in peace, man. That was so...
Mario,
yeah.
That dude was... I was competing with him coming in. I had only been lifting for 10 months. And my rise from first lifting and then 10 months later being on the platform at the Olympic Games is unheard of. But if it wasn't for Mario pushing me and saying, hey, you trying to pull it too hard. He said the bar is a foot above your head. It's crashing on you. He was teaching me, and I was his competitor. Mm-hmm. He didn't have to do that. He really didn't. But he did because he saw the potential, and he thought that I could help the sport grow, because we want growth in the sport. But people like Mario and John Davis, I wanted to honor them. I wanted to be the next heavyweight.
Oh, John Davis.
The Norbert Szymanskis of the world. Yep. I wanted to be considered great like them. And so, yeah, I mean, the sacrifice aside, I could feel their presence. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I really want to talk about this in particular. The switch over to, for you, and for people who are listening and watching, like, this is crazy. Okay, the switch over to Olympic weightlifting, 10 months in, and having a total that will qualify you for world championships in the Olympic Games is absolutely outrageous to think of. And what I want to know from you is, what was the progress of numbers because this is a numbers game, this sport.
Yeah.
What was the progress in terms of numbers and where you got and how long it took you to get there? And then the Olympic Games and so on and so forth.
Probably about the first time, it looked ugly, but the first time that I ever had a snatch training session, I snatched 125. That was my first, because I was really, really strong. I mean, I'm saying it like I'm.
No, yeah, you are. You are. Don't be humble ever.
The strongest human that ever lived. I mean, I squatted 1,000 pounds. I deadlifted 900 pounds. I bench pressed 585.
All raw.
Snatched all raw. I didn't use no equipment. I snatched 400 pounds. I clean and jerked 500 pounds, and I won the world's strongest man after 7 months of training against the best guys on the planet. And the athlete, I think, superseded the strength at first, because you have to be flexible, you have to be explosive, and like I said, it was ugly. It was very ugly because I was pulled it as high as, and then it would crash on me, and I would, I would have got a bronze medal at the Junior Olympics if I didn't pull the bar so high in the snatch, because my arm went down, and they called, Rudy Sablow, God rest his soul, gave me a red light. It would be an American judge that gave me a red light. But anyway, I'm not going to go back there. But
so 125 in the snatch?
125, and 2 months later, I snatched 145. And went to the juniors, did 147, and you're going to laugh. I can snatch 147, but I can only clean and jerk 170.
At that time?
Yeah.
What was throwing you off? Was it the jerk?
The jerk.
Yeah.
I just couldn't jerk.
Right. It's actually pretty common. It's not, I mean, I think it's obviously not ideal to have that ratio, but I've seen it a lot.
Splitting my feet.
Yep.
Was
timing.
So weird.
Yeah.
And my heel would hit, my toe would hit, like it was not ever in unison. And I always pressed them out. And I just felt like I needed to use my strength rather than the technique. And then, man, 6 more months, I was doing, 165 consistently, and, 200. So in about a 10-month period, 11-month period, I had refined the technique enough to do a decent standard. And, to do 165 and 200 was pretty damn good for a kid that had never seen that lift. Well, I had seen it in the Olympic Games, but in the gym. I had never felt that lift or made any attempts at it before then.
That is truly amazing. And I think, in my opinion, it's more of a testament to your athleticism than it is your strength. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that doesn't make sense because this guy's one of the strongest dudes in American or world history. And
but
I have seen
explosive.
I have seen very strong people who cannot do what you did. I have seen it
in all three sports.
Of course, I'm telling you that it should never go understated what you were able to accomplish in the time frame that you did. What I want to change it up a little bit and go towards strongman, because that to me is a really interesting one. Becoming the world's strongest man. And I don't know how long you trained for it, but you just, what was it? How long were you
training? I took off from wrestling this is 2002. I took off from wrestling for 5 months. So I was still strong then, training wise. I think 2002, I came out of retirement, and to qualify, I went to the Nationals. I qualified for the Nationals, won the Texas State Championship, won the national championships in powerlifting, so I could qualify to be one. You had to be one of the three.
Really?
You had to in order to qualify for the Arnold Classic.
Oh, Arnold Classic.
World's Strongest Man, you had to be either the national powerlifting champion, the national weightlifting champion, or you had to be a national strongman.
That's really cool.
So I had to go get one of them, and the powerlifting one was the easiest one for me to go get. I wasn't going to try to go and mess with Shane Hammond. He was the man.
Oh man, yeah.
I knew Shane would tear my head off at that point. So I was like, I'm going to leave him alone. And so I went and won powerlifting. I think I squatted like 965 and bench like 285 and deadlifted 903 was ended up being the world record.
285 is in pounds. What was so your bench was what? 285 you said?
No. 585.
585. Yeah, you said 285.
Oh,
I was like, that was a massive bench. 285 kilos?
I've been hitting the head a lot. Wrestling, man.
So then that World's Strongest Man event was the Arnold. Was that the first?
That was the first Arnold Classic.
So this is the lift right here. This is the axle. Apollon.
The Apollon's wheel.
Apollon's wheel. All right. Talk us through that day and leading up to that lift, because I've put this in my channel. It is a legendary lift. You know, I think since there's been guys who have broken that, but I think
they've never done it the way that I did it.
Okay, well, explain.
Explain. Okay,
go ahead.
Apollon's wheels, in the early 1900s, Adolf Apollon. People say he apparently lifted this train axle. There's no evidence showing that he did it. He just had it and said that he did it. So you had Norbert Szymanski lift it, and they kind of like pulled it to their waist, and then they
switched their grip
it to their shoulders and turned their hands, and then they push pressed it overhead. John Davis almost broke it, the original apparatus. After coming back from the war, John Davis was able to lift it. And Terry Todd always thought that was one of the most impressive and the extremely hardest lifts to do. And he only wanted to do the heaviest, hardest lifts at the Arnold. And when I heard about what was going to be done, I Googled, of course, the lift, and I watched it over and over and over. And the thing that's exceptional about me lifting is my grip strength.
Yes.
So I trained my grip after watching karate movies when I was a little kid. So you ever see Pame, the old karate movies, the guy with the white hair? They used to punch steel and rocks and
I've seen
grab gravel.
I've seen like homages to that, like Kill Bill.
Like Kill Bill.
Yeah.
So right. I did training like that, not realizing that was TV. I was a dumbass kid, basically. And so I would, wring out towels after seeing this movie called Master Killer. I'm a big old karate movie fan. So I would do all this stuff, and it worked. So when I train kids, and I have a program called Mark Henry Strong Kids, and grip is a big foundation of our training.
So this is why this is important. I actually realized with the Apollon's wheel or axle, or you grabbed it like this. Overhand. Not like this and switching hands. No. You grabbed it overhand and pulled. And it did not come that is crazy to me.
Because every weightlifter knows that you're going to do an arc when you lift. The bar comes off the floor, it goes forward, and then it does an umbrella. It does a little hook.
Yep.
And in that little hook area, you have to meet the bar as at the apex of the hook. So when the bar comes, boom, you meet it. That's what I was doing. I was pulling the bar high enough that I can let it go. And this is in suspended animation. You let it go, and then you catch it.
Yep.
And it's the same principle as a clean, same principle as a snatch. the feet and the arms, bam, at the same time.
So when you went and lifted, what was the process like leading up to those?
I use weightlifting technique to do it rather than powerlifting or just trying to muscle it up. You have more endurance and more oxygen in your blood at the beginning of the lift than you do at the end. So I did not want to have to fight it before I had to put it over my head.
And competition day comes in. What was your warm-up? What was your mindset around that lift?
I wanted to be really, really fresh. I went to bed like 9 o'clock. I woke up at like 7 in the morning, ate the biggest breakfast you ever saw in your life. I think I ate a dozen eggs that day. And I got to the training hall. I laid down and stretched. I always did a lot of stretching back then. As a weightlifter, flexibility is paramount. You have to have great shoulder flexibility, incredible glute and hamstring flexibility because you can't get into position without it. So I stretched and I relaxed and I sat there and I focused and I looked. I did that lift 50 times in my head. So when I went to the platform, I always showed a flair of, I was kind of a show off. I stood on one leg. I danced. I was a clown. I wanted to entertain. And that day was no different. It was like the only way you get to celebrate, I tell my son, he's a great athlete, the only way you get to celebrate is if you win. Losers never get to show their dance moves. And he laughs, but this is God's honest truth. I wanted to get it in, so I had to go out there and perform.
So the most interesting part about this is you hit that lift 50 times before you hit it once. So this is a very interesting study. They took basketball players. They had one shoot free throws. They would shoot 10 free throws. Another one would not shoot, but he would make the he would pretend like he would see himself, but he would actually go like this, right? And then they had one just stand there and make 10 free throws without moving in his head, just completely stand there. And who do you think performed the best?
The guy that focused and just stood there.
The guy that just stood there. Of all of them, he outperformed them all. Even the guy that practiced his form. The visualization thing is so powerful, and it almost what sucks is like I don't like to be the guy that says the same thing that everyone else has been saying for a long time, but I really feel like there's some spiritual depth to that. It's not just belief.
Yeah.
It's not just. It's like. Actually, I'm doing this right now. I'm lifting this bar. I've already lifted it.
Mm-hmm.
My best in competition lift in the clean and jerk ever. Actually, I did once. No, this is it. 175, and I did it like near 180 in training. But that day, I could have done who knows what. I remember walking up to the bar and being like, this thing, I've already lifted this thing. I even said it. I said, this weight's easy. I said it and the camera recorded it. It's up on my Instagram. I didn't think, like, again, if someone had told me to visualize making it, I wasn't like, now visualize yourself making it. It just was natural. It was like, it was just going to happen. Though.
I wish they would have done that to you.
So it's
because that's what I had at the training center in Colorado Springs. We had Dr. Steve Fleck, who was the exercise scientist, and we did blind lifting. We did oxygen deprivation. We did force platform power outputs. Like they did the whole biomechanical breakdown of the lift, and every facet of it. Sometimes it would be just. They would have your maximum weight on blocks, and then you had to go and just pick it up and jerk it. Just do the jerk without doing a clean or anything. Some days we would just clean. Some days, we did these scientific experiments to see, what was the best way to train. all of that was preceded by, I need you to close your eyes. I need you to see yourself do that lift. Be in the moment. Be on that platform. And see yourself actually. I can see myself in Colorado Springs. I can smell it. I know where I was sitting. I know what color the weights. There were certain weights that I liked. I like even weights. I wanted all red and white change. I didn't want to have a blue, a yellow. I didn't want that. If I couldn't get all the proper weights, I wouldn't do it. That's how crazy and focused you got to be. You got to have it the way that it looks the best to you, feels the best. It's hard to describe to somebody that never lifted before. But if you lifted before, everybody's going, man, I get it. I know exactly what you're saying.
So I understand this deeply, and it really is hard. It's hard. It's too palpable. It's too visceral. It's too, but also at the same time, it's intangible, unless you, like you said, like someone has done it before. And that's kind of where I was going when I said that I was like completely sober, not on my own volition, but because it was just like, oh, I've got to do this. Like, it's just what I want to do this. And I think the visualization fed into that as well. It was something that I had to feel myself, or I would never allow someone to tell me to visualize something. Just personally, it had to be like, yeah, but it doesn't make sense to me when you tell me to visualize. That doesn't, whatever. But the more and more I lifted, it was like I was just visualizing making it, because like, what else would I visualize? You know, and then after a while, it became a wonderful tool. And at your level, at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, absolutely would be, it would absolutely be a beneficial thing to have someone guide you through that just every single day. It's not going to happen the first day, too.
No.
If I tell you to visualize something that you've like,
that you don't know
like
about,
golfing. Are you a golfer at all?
I used to, but not now. But I get what.
Or like bowling or something where it takes like, I need focus for this one singular movement. If I told you to visualize, you're going to be like, I visualize what? I don't get the sport.
What?
I don't
Yeah.
understand it. You know?
Exactly.
So, but now that you felt it, now that you're dying for this thing, now that you're giving your all in every manageable way, now when I tell you to visualize it, you can.
Now you can, and that is exactly what I'm saying. I had Emelian Yankov and Angel Spazov. Every time I would do a lift, they would make me draw the trajectory in the line of the bar. What do you think it was? And then they would tell me, no, you push the bar out too far, and now you had to pull it backwards, and now it's going backwards. So an object in motion stays in motion. If I'm pulling it backwards, that's where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to fight it. You can stop it with your body. That's how I tore my intercostals at the Olympics in '96 with 185. Is I should have let it go for the greater good to get to the clean and jerk. I should have let it go. But that never say die, fight it to the end mentality, it caught up to me. But each one of my coaches gave me something. And the trajectory of the bar and knowing where the bar lies and where it was going to fall and how hard to pull it. And don't pull it all the way hard as you can, because once you pull it as hard as you can, you're not going to be able to control it. You need to use your technique. And then I got to Colorado Springs, and I had Dragomir Sorosalan, who Dragomir was more of a visualization, see it so you can do it, and focus. And Dragomir was the one that, really got us with Dr. Steve Fleck and got us to have these classes where we learn how to focus. Terry Todd was all of them. Terry was like, know the history, know what came before you. He said a lot of times you won't compete against the people that's in the room with you. He said you're already good enough that everybody in that room, they're not going to be able to compete. He said you're going to compete against ghosts. Everybody that's came before you, that's who you're competing against. Don't you want to be number one, number two, number three in every category that you compete in? Yeah. He said, well, don't you want to know who you're competing against? Oh, okay. So then I had to learn the history of the sport. So that is a different mentality of training, but it is a part of the training. Like the studying and the knowing where you came from and where you are is super important. So I was very well rounded. I wasn't an accident. I wasn't just a strong guy that got into lifting. From the time that all my childhood photos, from 7 years old to graduating high school, I was flexing, I was posing, I felt strong. And it led me to everybody that I ever met in the sport. And it wasn't an accident that I became me. It was predetermined.
Yeah, like I said, there have been strong guys before. There are currently strong guys, but that doesn't mean they can do what you've done.
If they study, and hopefully the genetics is there, but
what I'm pointing out is, like, when people say, "Oh, Mark was just a strong guy," that's why he was so good at weightlifting. That is not, because there are strong guys that don't do what you did. Right. So that's what I was getting at. And I think that's a really important thing. What I want to touch on, just strength in general. And I think what's going to fall into this is powerlifting specifically, because when we look at strength, like, your introduction to the weight room for a lot of people is just regular compound movements, also single joint movements, where we're just trying to get more muscle and get stronger. That's going to be deadlift, back squat, front squat, bench press, bent over rows. It's going to be pull-ups. It's going to be push-ups. It's going to be all of the very basic things. And I think when people want to test themselves after being in the weight room, it's only natural to do it in powerlifting. And that's what I want to touch on with you, was your experience in powerlifting, but more so just strength. Like, when did you know that, okay, this is kind of crazy that I'm going to be this strong, or that I think I can really, like, powerlift? Like, you're telling me I just pull on this bar, or I back squat this bar and bench press it, and I'm beating all of you guys? Like, what was that process like for you?
I knew in the 6th grade, because I wanted weights, and my brother had foot weights to get strong for football, and I was already lifting 225 pounds in the 7th grade, by that summer of the 7th grade. So when I went to junior high, they had only machine weights, and machines would go up to like 315 or 325. I could lift the whole stack. And the coaches were like, holy shit, like, did you just do the whole stack? And I'm like, yeah. And I felt good about it. And they were like, well, we got to take you to high school, because at the high school they had free weights. And they wanted to see what I could do. So I went to the high school and lifted. That's when I knew that I was different. I thought I was just strong. I didn't know that I was exceptionally strong.
Right. So what happened after that? Like, what was
bench pressed 300 the first day that in the 7th grade, and that next year I was able to do 355 in the 8th grade, and I was benching near 400 my freshman year. We didn't even have a powerlifting team. And they were like, went and got my brother my freshman year, and they did the powerlifting, the squat test, and my brother's record was 565, and I got the 525. This little freshman lifter, and they went into the school, because my brother was in the varsity period. I was in the freshman class. They went and got my brother and brought him out of his class and said, "Hey, Mark is finna try to break your record." And he was like, "Get out of here." And he came in there and watched me break his squat record.
No.
And he was like, damn, like, he could not believe that I was able to squat 565. And that was a true freshman that had only been squatting for probably less than 6 months. So the things that I was doing,
I just PR'd my back squat. I just PR'd my back squat at 509.
You want to hear?
And I'm a grown ass man. So how old were you? 14?
I was 14. So check this out. This is gonna make you laugh.
Okay.
And it's a lot of work that go into it.
Yeah, yeah.
My son is 16. He went viral on social media before school started this year. 16 years old. He squatted 600, and that was not the limit. We stopped him because he's playing football, and I didn't want him to burn himself up. And the same thing with the deadlift. When we're done with this, I'll show you videos of him deadlifting. He deadlifted 600, no sticking point.
My God.
And it's because people say, "Oh, yeah, you're supposed to do that. You Mark Henry's son." No. He trains like he don't have talent.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality that we have when we go to the gym. Yeah, he want to be me. I'm his dad.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, I don't want to power lift because I'll never lift what you lifted." I said, "Well, you never will if you think like that." I was like, if you want to do it, we're not even the same weight class. What are you talking about? He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, there's weight classes, right?
Right.
That's how young he is. He didn't know there was weight classes.
I want to get back to your relationship with you and your son because that fascinates me. But I have to know, I have to keep going through this progress because this is so interesting to me. So high school freshman, back squats 565?
Yeah.
Okay, where did we go from there?
At that point, Craig McGallion, who was the coach, goes to the principal and says, "We got a kid that just lifted more than everybody that ever lifted in the history of our school. We need weights. We need money to go buy new weights. We don't have enough weights for him." And they said, "Well, how much do you need?" So the city did a big fundraiser, and they bought us a brand new gym.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, like $5,000.
You did that for your friends, too.
And it was for everybody.
Yeah.
And I felt good about that.
Yeah.
And the next year, from having no powerlifting team, the next year we won state. We had 5 other guys that pushed themselves as hard as I pushed myself. And from the smallest weight class, Adam Hart at 114, to me at the super heavies, we both won state, and then we had 2 other guys place second and third, and one of those guys was my brother. He came in third.
So then when did you, I guess professional wouldn't be what we would call it. Like, when did you start competing, nationally. In powerlifting? Like, what do those numbers look like?
My senior year, I competed in Hollywood, Florida at the World Championship, the Senior Nationals.
For what federation?
Powerlifting.
What federation?
I think it was the USPF.
USPF.
They didn't drug test.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I couldn't go to the ADFPA nationals because of graduation.
Okay, what weight class?
Super heavy.
And who were there any bigger names in that?
The only time in powerlifting, I've only lost one time in powerlifting, and that was Kurt Kowalski.
Oh yeah.
And Kirk beat me by like 10 pounds. And that 10 pounds just ate the shit out of me for a year.
But how old were you, though? You were a senior in high school?
I was 18.
Yeah, come on.
And
you're going to get him back. He knew you were going to get him back.
He knew. He knew. He was like, damn, man, you're impressive. And shook my hand. Unlike Anthony Clark, who was mean as shit to me. He felt intimidated that I was coming after his records. I broke all his high school records. He was so mad. And I felt like that was an indictment on his character. God rest his soul. But, you know, like, I competed in the organizations that drug tested. Mm-hmm. And a lot of his records in the federations where they didn't the drug test, some of those records still stand. But in powerlifting, a lot of the records are littered with, you know, Mark Henry, because if they drug tested, then I hold those records still.
So let's talk about, if we could, just a little bit about your relationship with the health side of the sport. And I think it's important for people listening, watching, to know that if you're trying to reach the pinnacle of whatever it is you're doing, it can and likely will take a toll on your health.
Oh, yeah.
But if we look at the top level powerlifters, weightlifters, and definitely strongmen, what they're doing to their bodies is incredibly unhealthy. And it's not, you know, I just watched the Rogue Invitational, and they did 1,000-pound yoke. They did a bunch of other things. And I'm actually not concerned about the stress from the weights. I'm concerned with their lifestyle conflicting with the stress from the weights.
Yeah.
Can you speak on that lifestyle? And I think let's go into strongman, because I think it is the most extreme. Personally, I think what those guys are.
No, I think that powerlifting, I think, would be the most extreme, because you don't have to be a great athlete to be a powerlifter. You just need raw, low gear strength. Mm-hmm. And people that take anabolics and growth hormone, it'll be beneficial to you in powerlifting more than it would be in weightlifting, especially weightlifting. You have to be an athlete. You have to be flexible. You can't just be strong. You have to have a strong mental capacity for weightlifting, because you got to break down and review your technique and be able to evaluate yourself.
You can't, I think in weightlifting, you can't build yourself up initially with drugs alone, but I think the value would come from recovery, and it would also give you something else to periodize. Well,
it would also make you 30% stronger. So if you 30 to 33% stronger,
you can be 10% better in weightlifting.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's kind of the rule too. That's what the statistics have shown in Olympic weightlifting, 10% usually.
And I got
massive.
beat. I got beat in the Olympics in '96 by exactly 33%. First place, if they took 33%, that was.
And are you talking 92 or 96?
I'm talking 92.
Okay. Who was? Where you were 10th.
Where I was 10th was.
Who was 1, 2, and 3 at that time? Oh, Razazadeh was.
No, Alajide was after. I never competed against him.
Okay.
It was Ukrainian. Well, he competed for Russia, but
Chmerkin?
Andrei Chmerkin. And those guys, you know, I mean, it was a bunch of them that were really, really good.
Ronnie Weller, sorry, the German.
Yeah, and Manfred Nerlinger.
And so here's the thing: like you said, 33% was the winner. Yeah. But if you were to dial in, like, what were your lifts in 92? What were the top lifts in both?
You know what? I can't put my finger on exactly what that number was right now.
But you had much more to give.
But I still had a lot to learn.
Yes. So here's what I would say. Best best possible Mark Henry and let's say best possible Tremerkin, that's where the drugs can add 10%.
Yes.
So 33%, but you trained for 10 months.
Right.
Right. So generally, that's where I was getting at is like, we kind of went off a little bit here on the tangents, but the 10% in weightlifting is like very common. And 10%, it's not just like, that's if you do your best, right?
Right.
But that gives you leeway to have a 3 for 6, a 4 for 6 meet, a 2 for 6 meet, and still be able to medal and still be able to even win in certain cases. That's where it sucks. That's where I totally understand. And look, we can bitch about it all we want, but it is what it is, and it was what it was.
I want you to wrap your brain around this. I quit weightlifting after 96. I was still in my mid-20s. I was able to snatch 182.5. I was able to clean and jerk 222. And that's a hell of a standard. Today, it's a good standard. What if I had lifted for 10 more years and got into my grown man strength, is what Terry Ty used to call it? 30 years old, 35. That's where Mario Martinez was teaching me. He was 35. So, and I say that about powerlifting. I would have squatted 1,100, I think. I would have deadlifted 925. I was the worst bench. I came in dead last in the bench in powerlifting in every weightlifting competition I went to because, 580 is nothing at the world level. It's nothing. There were guys in the 181s that could beat me in the bench. So wow. I wasn't embarrassed about it. But my subtotal, and then I knew when the deadlift came, it was over. So, but strongman, you could be 35 and still be great. 40 years old, you could be great.
The problem is the professional eating, the professional drug taking, the stress.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. Like I complained about it. Complaining about it didn't help. Only now in Olympic weightlifting, all the work that people like Ursula Garza have done to help clean the sport up. Like I wish that I'd have had people like Ursula at the top of the game when I was competing. I probably would still be. I still would have lifted. I would have kept lifting. But Tomas Ion, that son of a bitch, walked up to me in Atlanta and told me to stop complaining about the drugs because I'm going to get the sport kicked out of the Olympics. He's it's going to be my fault. That's what he walked up and told. Imagine if somebody walked up.
I have chills with anger right now.
Yeah, imagine why. That's why
Mark,
I quit.
You have no idea the level of ridicule I have given the IWF and Thomas Ion over the past 2, 3, 4 years.
We never talked about that.
Man,
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm going to let loose right now because that just boils my blood.
It was going to be my fault.
What a flaming piece of shit man is.
I was 22 years old. And he tried to put the failure of the sport on me. Complaining.
I've heard
clean the sport to make people not take drugs.
I have 2 instances of Thomas Ion that hasn't been reported. Mind you, there are still millions of dollars missing. Mind you, still. And we're never going to, the IWF is never going to get that back. He paid officials in different countries to vote for him so he could be the president again. He allowed bribes to transfer athletes from one country to another. He allowed athletes to compete after being banned. Every bit of corruption was exposed by a third party. The McLaren report was an in-depth report from a third party that came in and said, by all accounts, if this was in anything else, this man would be handcuffed and thrown in jail for life. Okay.
So and that whole deal was Alexander Kolovich that I competed against in Atlanta. He got kicked out of the games. He got the death penalty the year before, 2 years before.
Yeah.
And then he came back stronger than he was before he left.
Oh, that's
because he didn't get drug tested for 2 years.
I gotta be honest with you. This is nothing new, bro. Look, coming back after a band stronger, that's what we do in weightlifting, baby. You
so good.
You got popped for stanazolol as a junior, right? You come back and all of a sudden you're snatching more than you ever have before. You're clean and jerking more than ever before. But that's because you got this new natty status that it's all bullshit. We all know it's bullshit. But look,
woosah, man, just woosah. Like,
okay,
we can't change it,
of course.
But you know what? I'm a fan of weightlifting again. You know why? Because I see American faces at the top. Because they are finally doing better with the drug testing. And I'm optimistic. And I could be a fan. I can't even tell you. I know I didn't watch the last Olympics in lifting. I didn't watch. Just bitter. And then when I found out how good everybody was doing and how many changes they've made, I got back into it.
I have to just slightly burst your bubble. It's not as good as you think it is as far as drug testing and leveling and things like that. There's still a lot of... It's really laziness. WADA doesn't do their job compared to like an organization like USADA. And a lot of these numbers are still going up from guys who are supposed to be natural, beating the shit out of guys. You know, there's a junior 109 snatching 190 at 19 years old. Random kid in Ukraine. You know, we can't just... So with USA weightlifting in mind and, you know, the changing future, there's a very bright superstar in CJ Cummings.
Incredible.
Yeah, and he's going to be playing a little role in the movie as well. He's going to be like the up-and-comer, and you're playing his coach. What does that sort of thing mean to you?
It means a lot because, one, there's some things that not just lifting that I can help him with. He reached out to me about pro wrestling before. And I don't want CJ Cummings to leave lifting until he is the hands-down best lifter in the world. I left, and I don't want him to make the same mistake that I made. And I went and made a living in pro wrestling because that was the best option, and I was bitter. I wanted to leave because of Thomas Ayan and the sport not being clean and all of that. CJ is in a better position than I was. And he's got people that are looking out for him. Not to mention he's close. And he's just damn good. And I hope to see him flourish. But I want to impart with him in this film that it's going to be hard. Like, don't expect it to come just because you're working. You have to go and take it. And as a coach, I saw really good coaching with Angel Spazov and Emelian Yankov and Dragomir Sorosaline, like Terry Todd. So there will be elements of all of my coaches in Mr. Ferris because I want CJ to have what I had, and it's going to be real. It's not just going to be the movie. Like, CJ is going to get the best coaching that's ever been handed down.
It's just incredibly powerful to have these two things mirror real life and the movie. You know, the fact that this is something that you could see yourself doing in real life.
Man.
You know?
I am doing it in real life.
Yeah.
You know, at Mark Henry Strong Kids, like, we've done several summer training sessions. I took a group of kids to Ursula Garza's to get personal coaching from Ursula. You know how awesome that was for them? And the best part about it is Ursula was telling them exactly what I was telling them. But sometimes to reach kids, somebody else has to tell them, not just you.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, giving CJ this information, he's going to take it into his real life after the movie. Because I'm not going to tell him movie talk just to be telling movie talk. Like, I want to tell him exactly what I was told, the way that I was told in the Olympic Games. And I think because he's such a great athlete and because he's already a champion lifter, he'll get it. That it'll sink in, and it's going to come across to everybody like, Mark is passionate about this. I wouldn't accept this role if I wasn't going to impart what I know to be the truth.
What do you think a film like this can do for the sport of weightlifting?
There's a lot of people that are strong, and there's a lot of people around the world now that's doing CrossFit that, you know, they may not think that they can be an Olympic weightlifter. I think that CrossFit is going to get better because of the fact that people are going to see the Olympic movements and go, oh, wow, that's a better technique than I use. People talk about CrossFit not being safe. CrossFit is safe. It's just that you need more people that are qualified to teach it at the highest levels. And I don't think that that's the case. Now, every city in America, you go to Austin, right here in Austin, there's about 20 CrossFit gyms where you can get Olympic level training. Houston, oh, hands down. Florida, yeah. DC, oh man, you can get it. But in between America, well, California, especially California, like, there's not a lot of great coaching. You know, you got Dennis Sneathen still coaching in Missouri, and Wes Barnett's coaches, and like, it's a lot of people that's doing the best they could do, but they're not able to train all these people that are opening these CrossFit gyms, and people are getting hurt. So I think that CrossFit is going to get better because of this movie, because it's going to put more of an emphasis on the coaching. Mm-hmm. I think that the pool of weightlifters is going to get higher because there's guys that play football, basketball, other professional sports that use Olympic weightlifting as a training vehicle for their specific sport. I think the acknowledgement of the sport will get better because of that. So there's a lot of elements that are going to get better.
Yeah, and I think outside of the weightlifting world, like, this story I really believe in. And I know you believe in now too, because you've accepted this role. But to allow strength training and to allow weightlifting to hammer home the story, I don't think there's a more effective way to do it. We see boxing. Boxing's very effective. Mm-hmm. Fighting. That can hammer in. If we want to develop a character, we want to show certain things. Oh, here's a great tool. It's a great motif. It's a great metaphor. But there's something different about not you versus an opponent, but you versus a bar. You versus yourself. You versus yourself is
that is better than the bar.
Yeah, you versus yourself.
You versus yourself.
So you versus yourself is common thematically, right? It's either you versus yourself, you versus someone else, or you versus nature, or you know. But it's this intangible, but yet palpable thing about weightlifting. And it's a damn shame that it's never been shown to people.
It's a shame.
So we're going to do that, Mark.
Yeah. And I'm so excited. I told you, Rocky 1, Rocky 3. That's what this, I mean, I know that's a high bar. Rocky 1 won an Oscar. But it was because it was a story about boxing that had never really been told. And I think that telling this story and where it's going to go and what I've already read, man, like people going to find out about themselves. All the lifters around the world that are already lifting, all of the competitive athletes in the NBA, in the NFL, in Major League Baseball, all of these. Chad IK has his school in Arizona. Jeff Macy was training the Bulls when they were winning championships in the 90s. It's no reason, it's no secret that the Bulls were winning championships. They had great players. But I also remember Jeff telling me how hard they trained. And they were doing Olympic weightlifting, way ahead of the curve. So people are going to get introduced to our sport, and the people that are in professional sports are going to find people like us, and they're going to say, hey, I want to be better in my sport. Will Olympic weightlifting make me better in my sport? And I'm going to say yes. And they're going to want to know where they can go get trained. There's going to be an emphasis on credible gyms across the country to go train at in the off season. The world of sports is going to get better because of this movie.
Yeah, and I think...
Think about that.
Yeah.
Wrap your brain around that.
It's not just weightlifting.
The NFL,
Yep.
Major League Baseball, hockey, everybody's going to get better because of this movie that's about to come out.
Right. I think people need to know that they can invest. They can be a part of this as well. We have a fund set up. It's not a donation-based thing. We've done that before, but we set up what's called a WeFunder. Took a long time, a lot of stuff in the back end, and what that allows for is people to put something into this movie to invest and potentially get something back out of it. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish. And adding you to the fray as well is, I can't think of a better person for this role. And I can't think of a better way to...
You see, I get fired up. I get fired up real easy because I love it, man.
Yeah.
And I believe in it. And I know for a fact that everything that I say is going to come from my heart and my experience. And I've had success at every level. I've been blessed. I didn't pick the sports that would have paid you the most money. I picked what God made me to do, and I picked what I loved and what made me feel good. Lifting made me feel good. At the end of the day, I go to sleep every night knowing I did it the right way. I did the best that I could do, and that I influenced people. You said that you admired me from afar and you were motivated by my work. I've had people walk up to me and tell me, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I used to go to prisons and do lifting exhibitions. And I've had guys come back and say, hey, man, I was in jail in Huntsville prison when you came to the prison. He said, you know, I run a janitorial service now. He's like, I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for me seeing you. That's the feeling, the emotion that I want people to get out of this movie. Shit means something to me. And I don't want it to be trivialized. And I don't think it will be, because now we get to write the narrative. We get to tell the story about the thing that makes everything else better. You can't be a great football player and you're not strong. You can't be a great basketball player and not be explosive. You can't be a great baseball player without torque and without explosion. Like,
I would argue that what it does for your mind,
and the
you can't be a better person. You know, I mean, it's all of the things that you've talked about today. I don't even look at weightlifting and the value it does for you physically. None of it. What I see with Mark Henry is what this sport has done for your life. You said it fed your family.
It did.
It provided you mental stability. It provided you purpose. And those are things that I value in this conversation much, much more than the ins and outs, the X's and O's of this sport and what it does for other sports.
I appreciate that.
And I'll be honest with you, man, if we can recreate that in some way in this film, it's going to be captivating. There's no fucking doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be, like I said, more ecstatic to have you on board, man.
I'm ready to get after it, man. I really can't wait for the end result, but the process of actually living through it is going to be just, I think, as important as the end result. I think that a lot of people are going to benefit from it.
So I think we're going to end it there, but I want to test your grip strength.
No, don't do it.
Just a handshake. That's all I want. Give me what you got.
The clip, this is the baby version. Don't break nothing.
Oh, come on! I want it.
No.
Oh, that's that karate training.
Gravel, man.
The gravel, the twisting. All right, man. That's it. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I'll see you next time.
I'm gonna wipe away the tears.